and welcome to episode 76 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in Northwest London. You can find me on Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm Nikki Hippie on Ravelry, and if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab on Ravelry, you will find our group right there. There will be a chatter thread about this episode in that group and I will link that below along with everything else that I mentioned today. As always, I want to kick off with a massive thank you and welcome. If you are a new viewer, welcome and thank you for giving the podcast a shot. I really do appreciate it. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you for coming back every episode. You guys are the best. Now, today is a Friday and I never film on a Friday because I'm usually working, but I worked a late night this week for an event, so I had a half day today and I've got quite a busy weekend ahead of me, so I decided to take advantage of the time off, which meant that I made a very, very quick cup of tea instead of my usual grabbing from my little roulette box. I thought I had made Earl Grey and I hadn't. I took it out of the wrong canister in the kitchen and it's actually Yorkshire Gold. So it's kind of what we would call builder's tea. Our builder's tea of choice is Yorkshire Gold. You could also get PG Tips or Tetley. But Yorkshire Gold is lovely and I actually do really enjoy a builder's tea. So yeah, bottoms up. Now, before we start the podcast proper, I have a few thank yous to say. And the first is to everybody who is still here. Last episode, I made a statement where I made my support for the Black Lives Matter movement really, really clear. I had a few unsubscribes, which isn't really a problem, doesn't bother me at all, but so many people have stayed and so many people commented to say they supported what I said and they were also behind the movement, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for helping me to make this a safe space. Thank you for supporting a movement that I deeply, deeply believe in, so thank you. I also want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has worked so hard throughout this global pandemic. And this is so many people. We often think about the NHS frontline workers and the people who are keeping supermarkets and kind of essential shops open and working, and I have thanked them before. However, as the lockdown restrictions are being lifted in London, I want to say a massive thank you to the people that I didn't even think to thank before, which was really remiss of me, and that is carers, people who work in care homes, people who are caring at home with hugely reduced support for the person they're caring for and for their own mental health. So thank you. And also a big thank you to people who work behind the scenes. My mum works behind the scenes at the NHS and she's been going to work non-stop throughout the lockdown, and there are hundreds and thousands of people who are doing the same, so thank you. But also a massive thank you to everybody who stayed in. I am not the only one that this has taken a toll on physically and mentally, but I really do believe that us giving up kind of our usual day-to-day lives and staying home, and I really do think that that has massively helped. But now let's move on to Whipped Up. Now, since lockdown began, I have been a fairly monogamous knitter. I have worked through all of the whips that I had outstanding, with the exception of my Crochet Stripes blanket and my Kerry Town pullover. And I have got a lot done just by being monogamous. However, it seems the Summer of Socks cow has derailed that somewhat, and I also, of course, as you saw last episode, have the Sincerely Louise disease. And on top of that, I also have the Sincerely Louise dinosaur head to be working on. So I have a lot to do. And I've just kind of in the last couple of weeks accumulated more projects. I'm not sure I've got the headspace to handle having all these projects. So kind of the last week or so, I did go a tiny bit monogamous. But all that to say, what I'm getting at is, got a hoe. This is the West Yorkshire Spinners sock that I'd cast on for the Summer of Socks cowl. It is knit out of their signature 4-ply, and this is turmeric, and this is from their Country Birds collection, and it is Kingfisher. And this is, as always, a cuff down vanilla sock based off of the videos by Meanwhile at the Castle. Now, I called this my Zoom knitting because I spend, as I've said before, an awful lot of time on video calls for work. So I like to keep my hands busy because it can be really, really easy to be distracted, I found, in these meetings, because I can see emails coming in, I can see messages coming in, and the temptation is to kind of deal with them because, hey, I've got my computer here, I can multitask, but ultimately I'm not paying attention if I do that. So I have made the decision a few weeks ago that I would mute the emails and my messages, and I would just sit and knit. And then I've got my notebook to hand, my hands are busy, and I'm focused then on what has been said. So all that to say, yes, I was on a lot of video calls. So I cast this on. I got the cuff, which I do the 1x1 twisted. So yes, I got the 1x1 twisted rib all set up, and then I just worked on the leg for quite a few meetings. And then I turned the heel one evening. Ooh, just covered my face completely there, hello. I did the heel one evening, and then gusset decreases. I find that fairly easy to do while on meetings. And to be fair, this is not all just video meetings, because I did a good chunk of the foot and the toe while I had a day off, and I sat and binge watched Rain. So yeah, it's been a very, very long time, but I have a hoe, and you can tell it's been a long time because why am I holding it up this way? All of my sock whips at the moment I am keeping in my Knitting Goddess bag. I'm not quite sure how I'm squishing them in, but I'm managing it. I don't have a commute anymore at the moment, of course, so I tend to throw this into one of my tote bags along with my water bottle and my glasses, and I carry them downstairs to my desk. So yeah, I could have 2 bags, but they're all in here. So one hoe, but of course I immediately cast on the second sock because second sock syndrome is real. I just said that without spluttering. I think we have puppy. And I did this in one day of meetings. So I did the cuff. I think I cast it on, well, I was binge watching Rain, let's be honest. And I got quite a bit of it done. I think I finished it, but I did kind of that much in my first meeting and that much in my second. So that's just 2 meetings in a day. So you can see why I zoom through these. They're really, really easy, really straightforward, and I think they're kind of beautiful. They're actually, weirdly, because obviously woolly socks are very warm, but they're kind of summery and beautiful and light, and yeah, I think they would make really cute summer socks. But I would say that because I'm English and it's June and we've had storms and it was really grey when I set up, and now there's a beautiful blue sky. So we have very strange weather that can't make up its mind. So I would say that these look like a very summery thing to wear. But yeah, this is how much I have. It's really, really good, as I said, for video meetings because I don't have to think. I just go round and round and round and round and round, and then I put in the heel of an evening. So there we go. Also living in here is my other sock making project, and this sock project does get some work done when I'm watching things or when I'm in meetings, but let me show you it before I go into detail. This is the Eltonin sock by Kalisha Ryan of the Quirky Monday podcast, and it is knit out of Binti by Third Vault Yarns, which is based on the book Binti by Nnedi Okorafor, and the grey contrast is First Frost by Stranded Dye Works. Now, I had no idea how this was going to knit up. Here we go. I caked it up last year for the Summer of Socks. Oops. I really have to learn to cake things up when I'm ready to go and not just to have them like waiting. Silly. And yeah, So yeah, I didn't really know how this would knit up. Excuse the stitch markers, I will explain those in a moment. But this is how it knits up. It's kind of a spiral stripe, which I love. I know some people really don't like that, but I really enjoy it. It's kind of like vortexy, I really like it. And as you can see, I'm hoping this is picking up on the camera, but it has a textured panel down the front and kind of 2 rows here, and then the back is just smooth. Now, the reason this hasn't got much further is because I have probably re-knit this leg a dozen times. This is a very, very simple textured stitch in the middle here. But because I was knitting it during meetings, I kept looking down and kind of going, 1 minute, I've made a mistake there. And I didn't notice it immediately till a few rows later because it wasn't super noticeable, and I could have left it. But I decided that it would bother me, and I just want my first pattern sock to be not perfect. I hate the word perfect, but as good as I can do it. So I unpicked. And what I did was I put in a stitch marker for every 10 rows. So that is what we have here. And that meant that if I ever didn't know what row I was meant to be on, I could count and figure it out. And it just made it a hell of a lot easier. And once I did that, which unfortunately I started doing from about here, I found it so much easier. So I'll definitely be doing that on the second sock. But that is a gorgeous sock, and I love, let me just put my hand in, and I just love that texture. It's such a simple pattern. It is, as I say, if you're not paying attention, easy to do the wrong row at the wrong point, but that could be said for any pattern really. But I love this, and I cannot wait to get it finished and wear it. And I wasn't sure about the grey as a contrast, and I remember I said last episode I went for the grey because it was neutral and because it's like that sci-fi-y, spaceship-y grey, but I really like it. I think it works. I think it works really, really well. So my plan for tonight, I have finished the leg. My plan for tonight is to put in the heel. And I glanced at the pattern and I noticed that the heel was slightly different to the way I do my usual heels, which is I want to say cuff flap, and that's not what I mean at all. Heel flap and then the heel turn. And it's entirely possible that in my kind of tired, worn out state, as I think we are, and I think we're all feeling kind of like that at the moment, but it is possible that I completely misread the pattern and it is a heel flap and gusset, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, I'm very, very happy with this, and I cannot wait to show you a hoe next time. Now, I haven't touched my crochet stripes blanket for a couple of weeks. I don't know about you, but I find that blanket making, the desire comes and goes, so I'm just kind of letting that sit. I don't know about you, but the desire to make blankets and work on blankets really comes and goes for me. So it's currently sitting on my armchair just over there, and it can sit there until I am ready to work on it again. It's fine, it's not going anywhere. I've been working on it for years at this point. And the other thing that I haven't been working on is my Kerry Town by Annie Lupton. So we're just not going to talk about it. It's just easier not to talk about it at this point. So that's kind of what I meant by going a little bit monogamous, because I added those 2 new socks to my Ravelry account. Project page, yes, that's what I'm looking for. Also, new Ravelry, have you all seen it? But yes, I added them to the page, and I kind of went, oh no, that's like 4 projects that I'm currently working on, and I don't think I'm ready for that. So I've been basically just working on my socks over the past couple of weeks, because that's just where my brain's been at, because if I finish them, then they're not sitting there as whips. And also I really like socks. I do, I really, really love socks, and I love how quickly they knit up, and they're just a really good kind of thoughtless knit, which I really enjoy at the moment. So it's a good job we're doing the Summer of Socks, Cal, really, isn't it? However, we do have some future knitting to talk about. Now, the backstory behind this is my lovely friend bought his first home last year. It was last year, wasn't it? I'm really struggling to know what day it is, what time it is. when anything happened. Time has no meaning at the moment. So yeah, I think it was late last year, and this week he brought home his puppy. He has got himself a French bulldog. He is tiny and perfect. He is a perfect little bean, and I'm very, very sad that I can't go over there and meet him. He doesn't live very close by, unfortunately, so it's not an option. And I wanted to knit him something because that is what pup aunties do. Now, my friend is a bit like me, a massive Marvel geek, and he has got the little puppy, lots of Captain America accessories. So his lead has got Captain America on it and things like that. There is a real theme here. So I decided that I would knit him a Captain America blanket. So I bought Paintbox Yarns Simply Aran, and as you can see, very much the Captain America palette. Now, I very rarely buy acrylic yarns because obviously they are not as good for the environment as I would like. However, because this is going to be a blanket for a pup, and my friend is not a knitter, I didn't want to get him something that was going to be difficult to care for and difficult to clean, particularly when there's going to be white in it. So I decided I would get acrylic because it's going to be well loved. He's going to have it for his lifetime. And I had a look at some yarns that were superwash wool and so on and so forth, but I've never actually had superwash wool that I myself have knit up or crocheted up and thrown into the laundry, so I can't vouch for it. And I know I can vouch for acrylic, so that's why I have gone for this, even though it's not my first preference. My plan for this is I need to find a pattern. Now, my plan is to crochet because I love crocheting blankets, and I want to crochet a white star, so like the star that Captain America has on his, not armour, like his superhero outfit. You know what I mean. So the white star, and then do blue and white stripes around it. Now, this was a discussion I had with my friend. This was a plan I made several weeks ago, and obviously over the past couple of weeks we've been talking about Black Lives Matter in light of the atrocities that have happened in America. And you know, the Black Lives Matter movement is a global movement. Black people suffer racism and cruelty across the globe, but you know, it was sparked by an incident that happened in America. So it feels very uncomfortable to be making this blanket because obviously it's Captain America. These are the red, white and blue of the American flag, and something I've been sitting with. So I've had these about 3 or 4 days and I haven't started it yet. I haven't even looked for a pattern. I did see a pattern and then I couldn't find where to get it from. But I've been thinking about it a lot because it has made me uncomfortable. But the thing is, Captain America is one of my favourite characters, and I'm sure it's the same for my friend. He's one of my favourite characters because he is so good and so decent, and he does the right thing and he cares for people. And spoiler alert, by the way, I'm assuming you've seen Endgame at this point, but just in case you haven't, the implication in Endgame was that Sam Wilson, who is the Falcon, is going to take over as Captain America. So we are going to have a black Captain America. I don't read the comics, I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't read the comics, but I do believe there is a black Captain America in there as well. And for me, Captain America symbolises everything that is not just good about America, but about people in general. Stephen Rogers is somebody who stood up to bullies even when he was half their size. And for me, that is the energy that I'm putting into this blanket. It's about decency, it's about love, it's about standing up for other people. And that, I think, is a really, really good thing. And there will probably be people who don't really understand why I'm justifying this. And it's not justification, it's explanation. But I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact that we are living in an incredibly fraught time. And we can't just blindly make things, we have to be a little bit more critical. And I did genuinely consider changing the idea and going away and figuring out something different that I could make for him. But ultimately, I knew that he would love this. And Captain America is an absolute hero and I really love him. and I really love him and everything he stands for. So that is why I am making this blanket, and because there is a teeny tiny little puppy that needs a blanket. But that's it for Whipped Up this week, so let's move on to Knit and Natter. I am going to keep this one brief. I don't know if you can hear, but we do have some people over, so there is some background noise, so I'm going to try and wrap this one up. I just thought I would share, as we are kind of loosening up lockdown here in London, I thought I would share what I am most looking forward to doing when I am allowed to. Now, I have a lot of feelings about lockdown being eased. I'm sure I'm not the only one who, despite not enjoying lockdown, feels very, very anxious about going back to normal. And as I say, I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way. And to be completely honest, I'm not sure if I trust that now is the right time to be loosening up lockdown, but here we are. This is the position we are in, and yeah. So I'm trying to look on the bright side. What are the things that I am most looking forward to doing when I am allowed to? And honestly, the first thing that pops into my head after seeing friends and people that I haven't seen in ages, of course, the first thing that pops into my head is get a pedicure. So I love getting a pedicure. It's one of my favourite treats. I have a place that I go to in Richmond that does a beautiful job, and they're so lovely there. They're so chatty and warm, and I just love having like a little chat or read my magazine and sip my tea and get my toes made to look pretty. And I've really tried to give myself an at-home pedicure, and I'm just not very good at it. It is a real skill. It's a real skill to do like nice nails and toes and things. So I'm really looking forward to a pedicure. I'm hoping to make a little day out of it and meet a friend and go and get matching pedicures and go for a walk. Oh gosh, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to having someone deal with my trotters. As I said, the top thing that I want to do is see my friends again. There are literally people that I haven't seen since February because I had my birthday the last couple of days of February, and I haven't seen them since then, and that's really sad. And I'm just looking forward to kind of doing what we always do, which is getting together to eat, drink, walk, and just talk, because you know, you can WhatsApp and you can voice memo, and it just doesn't make up for just hanging out and talking face to face. I'm not sure how much we'd have to talk about beyond didn't lockdown really suck, but you know, it's just going to be good to talk to people again face to face. It's going to be great because then you get the energy, and it's a joke and it's a laugh, and it's going to be really nice. I'm going to like struggle. I'm going to be looking at people like, what do? Do we talk and I don't wait like a couple of hours to get back to you, like this happens? So that's gonna be great. Like immediate responses from people and like vibes, and oh, it's gonna be great. I also really, really want to get my fitness back. I will probably talk later about the struggles I've had in lockdown. It's all a bit much right now because it's happening. But I've severely lost my fitness. If you remember, my plan this year was to do a 10-mile run every month, and that is 100% not something that happened. I did two. I did January and February, and then we went into lockdown. So I've not been able to do that for the past few months, and frankly I'm not going to be able to start straight away again when we are allowed out and when the gyms reopen. I am going to have to get back to working out. I'm gonna have to get my mileage back up. So I'm kind of working on now kind of a schedule to get myself walking long distances again, just to get my body used to that. And then when the gym reopens, I'm going to get back to my usual training and swimming and getting shorter runs done on the treadmill. I know a lot of people don't get that, but I really love treadmill running. For me, running is always about just switching my brain off, listening to a podcast or listening to music and just going. And much as I enjoy running outside, I don't get that quiet in my brain because I have to be aware of my surroundings, I have to check my route, I have to kind of make sure I'm not bumping into anyone or tripping over puppies, which happened a couple of months ago, you know, things like that. And I really do miss, you know, getting on the treadmill and just running 5k. It was so good for making my brain quiet. I'm not very good, I say I'm not very good at meditation. I've never really given it a fair shot. But you know, kind of sitting to meditate, I struggle with. But honestly, the quiet that I get in my head when I go for a run on a treadmill is just, I miss that so much, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I mentioned swimming there. I don't usually swim because it's a bit of a faff, really, isn't it? Getting there, and then you have to dry and go home and like get the chlorine out of your hair and all of that. But honestly, when I have gone swimming regularly, it's been so good for my asthma. So I find running really good for my asthma, but swimming is even better. So I do want to get back to that. And I think the one thing lockdown has taught me is that I need to take advantage of the things that I can. Like I was missing swimming and I never had it to miss. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to adding that to my repertoire as well. I also really want to get a cream tea. A cream tea is one of my most favourite things in the world. I love a scone with some cream and some jam and a good cup of tea. It's such a treat. So I am planning to go out with some friends and get a scone and have cream tea. And it's not something I do on the reg. It's usually something I do when I go away somewhere in the UK. I'll find somewhere that does a scone. I used to do it all the time when I went to Cornwall. I've done it in Glastonbury. I've done it pretty much everywhere I go in the UK. And I just realised I'd never had a cream tea in London. So gonna treat myself. Another thing that sprang to mind was I watched during lockdown the documentary by Dr. Alice Roberts called Can Science Make Me Perfect? And it was so interesting, and I believe that the kind of model they made of her, perfected by science, is now on display at the Science Museum. I've never seen it, so I'm going to go and have a look at that. I'm generally just going to go and enjoy museums again. I miss going to the late night openings at the Science Museum and the Natural History Museum and the V&A. So yeah, that's just a few things that I would really love to do once lockdown eases a bit more and we're allowed out and we are allowed to do all these things. So yeah, it makes me feel good to know that that is coming. I honestly don't know how long we're going to be opened up again, if there is a second wave, which I really hope there won't be. But I'm going to enjoy the freedom while I can. And of course we will be all enjoying that freedom, I hope, while wearing masks and keep washing our hands and carrying hand sanitizer and doing everything we can to make opening up as safe as possible. But that's it for this week. Slightly light on the content due to the fact that I'm filming a day earlier than I normally would. But yes, I'm trying to take advantage of the time as I have it. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I hope you and yours are staying safe, staying healthy, and I will see you very soon for another cup of tea. Take care. Bye.